Commissioner Roach?
Here.
Commissioner Haynes?
Here.
Commissioner Bowers?
Here.
Commissioner Hedden?
Here.
Mayor May?
Here. We have a quorum special meeting to discuss one agenda item, but we do allow for citizen comments on the agenda item only. So if there are citizens that would like to make comments on the agenda item, which is to talk about Restoration of Old Law, just raise your hand. I'll just go from left to right around the room. If you want to say anything, you don't have to. So, all right. So Scott Walker, just if you don't mind, state your name for the record.
Scott Walters. I live downtown. I just support the wise adaptive reuse instead of demolition. So I think it's really important, and I think that in many ways, I think the city is helping other types of projects. Even with the discussion of the TIF district that's planned, I think that, I would a whole lot rather help an in-town developer than an out-of-town developer. So I think that's all I really have to say.
All right, thank you. Well, I guess nobody else did. I'll turn it over to John Gray to make a presentation. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for holding this special meeting. I'm sure that all of us wish we were anywhere else but here, especially tonight of all nights. So we've handed out a packet. On the top is a short biography of Craig Turner, the developer. Also a short biography on Wayne Wellman, who, along with his wife, Zetta, own and operate the Gratz Park Inn. And there's also a letter from our structural engineer, Ethan Hewell, who inspected the old Y last Friday, I guess it was. And his conclusion is that the old Y is not in imminent danger of collapse, and neither is it so far beyond repair that it's impractical to renovate the building. Ethan's worked with us on a number of projects downtown, and in particular the two buildings on St. Clair that practically burned to the ground, that have been fully restored now. So I believe he knows what he's talking about. We also have in there, I think it's a 2 or 3 page trying to anticipate questions that might be asked, and have provided answers. We also have a copy of our marketing study. We also have a copy of some of the work that we've done on some of the buildings downtown that show what they look like before we started and what they look like now. And then we also have a piece on CRM, who's the development and management team that we'll be using. And Craig couldn't be here tonight, but his able assistant, Garen, is here, and prepared to speak to you all.
Okay, great. I'll say a few comments, and then I'll turn it over to Wayne if you wanted to add a few things. But
Could you just state your name for the
yes,
clerk,
Garen
please?
Denning, Garyen. Last name's Denning, Denning. So Wayne and Zetta and myself came tonight just to talk to you a little bit about the work we've been doing on the project and tell you a little bit about our company. Based in Lexington, Kentucky, we do a number of different things. We have a hotel division, a facilities management division, a restaurant division. And this project, I think, is one that we've been talking about for quite a while. Wayne's got a lot of experience with it. And I'm really here just to tell you guys that from a developer standpoint, there's a lot of exciting things about thinking about the why and this restorative use project. We think that infill, urban renewal is a really important part of city growth. And we look at what we've done with the Gratz, and we think we can build on that, looking at this project, looking at the amount of demand in the area. I think, John, that's one of your points. And then when we look at the adequate supply, we think this could be a really neat hotel, something that you can be proud of, something that you can be proud to have visitors come and stay at. Wayne, do you have some comments to add to that?
Sure. We tried to do some, we started this process with John and Martha a little while back. And what they tried to do was take baby steps instead of giant steps, which is exactly what you need to do. They've asked, in my knowledge, and no one that I know has ever restored something to this magnitude, but they've asked all the right questions. They've talked to all the right government agencies. They've made sure along the way that what they're trying to do is sound. That it's not just some fly-by-night whim on their part. And with that involved, we've been talking to them, meeting with engineers, architects, as much as we can. My name is Wayne Wellman, by the way, unless you need to know my name. I'm sorry. I'm the president. I'm Craig's partner. We're 50-50 in most everything we do. And I've been in the hotel business almost 40 years. I've built, and Craig and I have in excess of 30 hotels. We've built at least 3 boutique hotels, and we manage now a boutique hotel in downtown Lexington. So John and Martha, go back to that, have done all the right things, and we've tried to do as much marketing and much investigation of what the needs are. And I don't think I need to tell you, there is not a nice upscale hotel in downtown Frankfort. Some place to have meetings, to get a nice meal, to have bank facilities, to have weddings and those type of things. Also for the legislature when they're in town to have their all their meetings and whatnot. The people who are hosting or trying to persuade situations, there's no place for them to meet, no place for people to stay extended stays or stay a long period of time in suites and whatnot. And we're trying to adapt this hotel to meet those needs. With that in mind, we feel the rate, I feel the rate, and I've done this a long time, can be in excess of $165 to $170 per day per night for these rooms. There's going to be the inventory of these rooms or this hotel is going to be several suites, several kings, and several singles, and a lot with doubles where they have 2 beds in it. We're going to have ample meeting room space, we're going to have upscale dining, and we're going to have ample banquet room space in this small hotel. And we think that will serve the purpose of what we're trying to do. We're going to try and make it a somewhat destination hotel, with the Bourbon Trail being like it is, and with the proximity to all the bourbon houses around us. We think we can do that, and we feel confident we can. Now, I do know that these things don't happen overnight. You don't rush through them. And to further, I know Craig, who really does probably a little more financing than I do. I'm more the operations, but we've been doing this together for a long time. We actually met in college, and as you can tell, I haven't been in college in quite some time, so you can tell how long we've been partners. I know that what we can and can't do, and I know that Craig has talked to some of these financiers or some of these lending institutions, Richstone Bank for one, and I think PNC for another, and there is great possibility that they want to do this project. And this is not some whim. They have taken small steps along the way to ensure they're doing things the right way, which is exactly what they should be doing. I don't think anybody here wants to jump into something and spend this kind of money without knowing that we've done all the background and we've taken very, very cautious and strategic steps in doing where we are. And that's what they've done. If you're trying to penalize them for being accurate and being secure, because that's what they've been doing, is making sure they're not jumping into haste or doing something they shouldn't be doing. This project definitely has merit, and definitely, once they get it financed, it definitely has a very, very good future. And I can tell you that in my 38, 39 years. It definitely does. So we're here to help them. We're here to help manage it. We're here to help get it off the ground. And I feel very confident that when we do get it going, the city and all the people in the city will be very, very proud of it. It'll be very representative of something good for downtown. It will bring tourism in. It will bring people in. It will be a very positive step for downtown Frankfort.
Wayne, could you tell them about the flag?
Yes. Now I've had every flag there is in every hotel, probably every brand there is over the years. We have already acquired and have pretty much a commitment, verbal commitment, that the Ascend group from Choice, which is a very national company, which we have a hotel in now. We've built other hotels. That they will give us a flag or give us a brand on this for a franchise. They're very anxious to do something with this, and they're calling us pretty much. Zeta and I were talking on the way over. This is my wife, Zeta. We were talking on the way over about how they're wearing her out, wanting to know when we're going to start the project. And they understand. We tell them, here's what we're doing next, and they say, well, okay. They give us advice on what the next step is and what we should do with them, but they're on board. So that's a positive step also as well. So,
Wayne, could you also just tell them the story about how we first met and what your first thoughts were coming to Frankfort to look at the old flag?
Well, it wasn't when I heard the project. You're always very skeptical. I'm very conservative. I don't like waste my time. I'm not going to waste my money. That's for sure. And I'm not going to waste anyone else's time and money. And we first heard about the project. The architectural firm EOP Architects in Lexington, Kentucky. We worked with them very closely in our developments, and they had called us, wanted to know, because they knew that we had managed hotels. They wanted to know if we would be interested in this project. When we first come over, I was very skeptical. I pulled up outside. I looked at it and I thought, I don't know. I mean, Let's go inside and see. So as we started talking to engineers, we started getting plans together. I started having a chance to see what kind of inventory of rooms I could have. I thought this store just might be able to make it, and I call it a store. That's my language, I'm sorry. This hotel just might have a chance. And the more I got into it, the more I saw the possibilities in the future. There definitely is a need, and definitely is something that we can market, and we can put out to the public and fill it up. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I could sit here in my mind, if I can go through it, and almost tell you I can come up with 8 or 9 months in a year's time of what I know is probably what's going to fill this hotel up, what this little inn's going to have. And with that in mind, you know, the other 3 months, all I got to do is market and get it full. So that's definitely a possibility.
Wayne, does everyone here know, and forgive me, she said maybe not everybody does, what the term flag means? Is that
Franchise.
Franchise.
Yeah,
Yes.
and explain to them the benefits of why that's important.
Well, the biggest thing is you want a central reservation system. It's CRS, and you get on with all the marketing and all the engines, search engines, to help you get as many people as you can. People can make a reservation now. With all this social media nowadays, it's very important to have these search engines or be connected to someone who can put you at the top of every list there is to get you as much activity as you can have. To make sure your website is hit as many times as you want, as you require it to be or want it to be, to make sure people are inquiring for reservations, and to make sure you can put your needs and your abilities out there in front of everybody. And that's what a franchise will do for you. It will give you that built-in audience that if someone comes to Frankfort and they want to stay at a choice property, okay, they'll put in choice property, okay, I need to have this kind of suite, or I need to have this proximity, and it will direct them right straight to the Singing Bridge Inn. That's what it do. Having a flag is important because it gives you connection to so many people. And what also can't be let down is the rewards program with Choice. Choice has the #1 rewards program in the United States. They have more followers than any other rewards program in the United States. And the second one is Marriott. Choice is #1. And that was what we'll bring to the Singing Bridge, is that rewards program. You'll be able to, all the people that will like to get their rewards so they can take their kids on vacation to Florida. Choice has many resort areas that people like to use, and they're #1 in that regard. So it's a big deal. This Frankfort, as you know, and keep in mind that Frankfort it's not far enough away from Lexington for football games. We'll fill it up for football games. UK football will come to Frankfort. We got fine dining, they'll come. They'll stay here. It's more convenient. People drive from west as well as do east to watch football games. They'll stay here. Kingland, we'll fill it up for Kingland. It's close. The Derby, we'll fill it up for a Derby at a big rate. Even there's rooms rent for $10,000 a night at 21C. Am I right, Zed? For Derby.
And by the way, we're full in Lexington too.
Yeah,
I'm
and we're
really
full. And we've been full for a year. This is what this inn can do for us. We'll be on the Bourbon Trail. We'll absolutely market the full out of that. There's many things I can say here and tell you on and on and on and on again. Basketball games, we'll fill it up. The demand is just there. We're close enough to Louisville, we're close enough to Lexington to bleed it from all of them, and we'll do that. We're involved with a hotel in Shelbyville, Best Western, and Lexington alone fills it up. Louisville alone fills it up all the time, and it will do here as well. Any questions?
We tried to point out, or our marketing study points out that Central Kentucky has 2 things that no place else in the world has. That's horses and bourbon. And it's not a question of if you build it, they will come. They're coming. And we need to build something to accommodate them. Martha, would you like to talk a little bit about the Bourbon Trail?
Well, yeah, and a lot of this, I don't know how much detail you want to get into. That's why I gave you that packet, because there's a lot of detail in the market analysis and the market plan, along with some other things. But, one thing that we're really missing out on is the Bourbon Trail business. And we found easily several studies out of U of L that talks about the economic benefits that are derived from the Bourbon Trail, even in Jefferson County, which has no distilleries, and Fayette County, which has no distilleries. I guess right now, people are largely bypassing Frankfort because there isn't this type of, and I'm not saying there aren't hotels here, no, that's not what Wayne's saying, but there's not this type of boutique, unique hotel in a historic building, especially not on the river with that kind of view. But just as a matter of pure chance, Frankfort and the building are within, 20 minutes or fewer of 5 different distilleries. Nobody else is that close. And, it really doesn't take much research to discover that a lot of those people that do the tour, they'll do it a 2-day tour and they'll stay part of the time in the Bardstown area, or maybe they'll stay in the Louisville area and they'll go south to the Bardstown area. Although we're no farther from Bardstown than Louisville is, honestly. But then they come and they look for some place in this end of the state, and they maybe go to Lexington, or they find, whatever's on the side of the interstate. But this is the type of place that they're looking for. And part of doing this, we went and sat down with the Kentucky Distillers Association, which runs the Bourbon Trail. And they're very interested in this project. And they are, because what they're trying to do with the Bourbon Trail is build a package, an experience, not just going to the distilleries. But if you go to their website and look, they have things on there like, for instance, Holly Hill Inn and Wallace Station as places to eat, to dine. The Grants Park Inn, which is run by Zeta, they're on the... they're a sponsor of the trail. And again, when we sat down with them, what he said was, is if you can do what you say you want to do, we'd be more than interested in having you as a sponsor, and they'll send us out on all their marketing materials, just like they do for the Grants Park, just like they do for Holly Hill Inn, just like they do for Mint Julep Tours in Louisville. I talked to the people that own and run Mint Julep Tours. They said the minute that website went live with their name on it, they had so much business they could barely handle it all. And I don't know if Zeta's having the same experience, but I suspect that she is. Because again, what the Bourbon Trail is doing is trying to market an experience, primarily to people coming here from out of state. And every year it grows. At the last count, it was over 500,000. And that doesn't count an additional 100,000 that go down to Buffalo Trace that aren't counted by the Distillers Association, because Buffalo Trace doesn't participate in the tour. But again, those people are looking for not just a visit to a distillery, but a certain type of experience, and that's what the Distillers Association is trying to do, is sort of create this, I guess I sort of think of it as the Disneyland of the bourbon world. But right now we're missing out on all that business, because there's really nothing, and again, I'll give you another, people that I talked to with Mint Julep Tours. Oh, you're in Frankfort, well, where's a good place? And you probably, maybe some of you have actually seen their tour buses come through, and sometimes they stop and they eat at Serafini's. But largely what she told me is that they bypass Frankfort during lunch or dinner hours. And the reason that they do, again, is because their clientele is looking for a certain type of experience. And when I mentioned Serafini's as a possible stop, she said it's a nice restaurant, there's nothing wrong with Serafini's. But these people, when they come in from out of town, they want to do the Bourbon Trail, they don't want to go eat Italian. That's almost word for word what she said. And the same thing, if we, she's talking to me, but if we can build what we want to build, they'll patronize it. They'll bring those people in here and stay here. So, that is a big market segment for us. And then again, just by accident of location, in the winter months, which are ordinarily slow months for everybody, I think in the hospitality industry, I guess Wayne can verify that or not. But here, January 2nd rolls around, and what happens? The legislature's in session, and people are coming to town. If you look at some of those legislative calendars, or, I know I've seen you before at political events or receptions over at the convention center, which again, it's functional, but if you want to have a lovely, if you want to make a lovely presentation, and you're trying to woo legislators or, government officials, if that's the best that you can offer, which is a basketball court with black curtains set up around it, well, that's fine. But, we have a basketball court, literally a basketball court size space at the back of the building that can be turned into a restaurant / banquet space. We have talked to the Heritage Council. I don't know if she would still remember the conversation or agree, but what she said is that, as long as what we did was period appropriate and met their standards, that we could put some windows in the end. Right now, that end that faces the river on the basketball court, what used to be the basketball court, is just a wall. But we can put windows in that so that there's a view out onto the river. And I think anybody who's been in the building or even stood on the bridge and looked, it does have really lovely views of the river and of south, primarily of North Frankfort, I'm losing my train of thought. Has lovely views across the river into the historic part of the downtown. It also, just in itself, has these really wonderful architectural features, which I think we've provided in the past pictures of the designer showcase. The building, just as it is, with a coat of paint and some nice furnishings, looked beautiful, and it has features that no new building is going to have. And I think also, we all know that if it comes down, it's gone, and nothing will be built in its place. So, this is, again, after, I know in talking about this, I feel like a broken record, but, when we took this on, we took on the building, we didn't know what we were going to do with it, and we considered several different options. It is going to take a lot of money to fix the building up, and so the question is what can we do with it that will generate enough income to pay for the renovation? And then beyond that, a boutique hotel, when you're talking about a destination as opposed to just a place to stay, it becomes a tourist attraction. So again, as opposed to condominiums or apartments or something like that that's housing people that already live in Frankfort, this is the type of location, the type of venture that will actually draw people into the downtown and generate traffic and provide some spillover benefits, not only just immediately across the street for the buildings that are now occupied there, but across the river, because Frankfort really is a charming downtown. It's almost like a Disneyland setup, but it's in need of a little push, and this is the perfect thing to do it. So, do you have anything else that you want me to address?
I know the Commissioner Haynes at least has visited the Gratz Park Inn.
Yes, it was a very good. I appreciate Gratz for being there because I just showed up. No appointment. Sometimes I kind of feel like when a person just shows up, they don't have time to do everything. There's no bells and whistles. But it was a great visit. It was a great place. And you actually do feel like you walk out of, I'm in Lexington, but when you walk into the Gratz, it's a totally different atmosphere. Kind of like going back a few years. It's just a very homey type place. And I was trying to look at it. It doesn't have the location quite as the location here is actually kind of boxed in between there. But with GPS and stuff, it directed me right in there. I had already heard about the restaurant, the Jonathan's. It preceded itself. I heard about it before I even heard that it was in the Gratz. And I appreciate the visit. I think you all have 21 rooms?
No, we have 41.
41?
41 rooms, yes.
Okay. Have you all looked at projections on rooms? I didn't look at all of the...
Well, actually, and Wayne didn't address that, but early on when we met with them, he did a set of projections for us. We've also been working with the Kentucky Small Business Development Center, and we talked about this the other day. I actually had, the accountants that, I always get their name always changes, Mountjoy, Chilton, Medley, blah, blah, they looked at it. Kentucky Small Business Development Center's looked at it. Wayne, of course, has been doing this for 40 years, so I think he knows what he's talking about. He provided a long time ago a very detailed set of projections for revenue and expenses associated with this hotel. When we were working with Kentucky Small Business Development Center with our own accountants at Mountjoy, Chilton, well, we'll just stop talking about. We actually backed off from some of his higher projections, just sort of like, okay, what's our sort of our worst case scenario, and the numbers still work. And so we've taken those, and we have gotten the interest of one bank in particular, but Cub Bank out of Shelbyville we made a presentation to them. They said they didn't want to take the whole project, but that if we could find another bank to come in, that they would take a piece of it. And then, and again, just to, and I put this in the Q&A. Do we have financing with all contracts signed and we're ready to go? No. I mean, I think I've pretty much let that be known that we wouldn't be here saying that we did. But this isn't the kind of thing where you go into a bank and you say, well, we want to build this hotel and we don't really know anything about the hotel business and we've never done anything this big, but why don't you give us $6.5 million and they write you a big check. That's not how it works. But how it does work is you build a project and you find professionals who know, we don't know how to run a hotel, and we knew that when we started. But they sure as heck do. They do it all the time, and they do it very successfully, and you've seen one of their properties, which is lovely. It really is lovely. So, we found an architect who can design, do the details, and in fact, Katie, I don't think you got one, but, these are before and after pictures of the Gratz Park.
I think you guys have given me that before.
Have we given it?
Yeah.
Because it was in bad shape.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It was the city mall. So, it was in rough shape, and we found people who know how to take a building like this, like we do. We've done down the street. We provide you some before and after pictures of our own work down the street. Something that looks like it's hopeless, and turn it into something really beautiful. And we have talked to people, and one of the things we've asked Wayne repeatedly, and asked him as recently as last week, was, do you believe in this project? Do you believe in these figures? Can you make, is this real, or are we dreaming? And that was the first question we asked when he came down the day that he said, I don't know. And consistently it has been absolutely yes. I can get this average daily rate. I can get this occupancy rate. There's a big market here that's now going to Lexington, and I won't tell you who said this, but we met with a state official, a secretary of the cabinet, who said, you think you can do this? Because right now we're sending our VIPs to the Marriott in Lexington. Now, would he want me to emphasize his name? Probably not. But I wasn't the only one at the meeting. So we're gonna get it up. Oh, so back to the financing. Even at the end of the day, this is not going to be one huge check from one bank. It'll be, and I tried to just explain roughly in the Q&A. It'll be some traditional bank financing, most likely through the Small Business Administration, through an SBA 504 7A loan. And the reason that is because we're not rolling the dough. We qualify for some programs because we're not very wealthy developers that support, provide some of the collateral necessary to get a bank to lend you a portion of the money to fix it up. There's a big historic investment tax credit that comes with this, and that's 30%. Total, it's 30%, so it's 10% state and 20% federal. Probably on eligible costs of about $5 million. So $1.5 million at the tax credit. And the way that works is that yet another bank, probably, although it could be a private individual, will buy in, will become a partner in the project, so that they can turn around and take the credit and get a ton of money back from the federal government. And this type of financing is used all the time, and we've used it successfully in all the buildings that are down the street. And then another big piece of this, and this is relatively new, so although this has taken a long time, in a way this is good for us because we now are in a census tract because Frankfort's economy is going the wrong way. It's going south. And because it's going south, we're now in a census tract that qualifies for new market tax credits. And again, I think, we've sent you some links so you can, it's easy just doing internet research to find example after example after example where they say that new market tax credits are used to provide that gap financing at the end, that last little piece of the puzzle, and that especially lately, they are being used to fund boutique hotels in small towns, and that those types of ventures in turn result in economic benefits for smaller communities. And that's exactly what that program is designed to do. What it provides, again, a huge tax credit from the federal government to encourage investment in areas where people you otherwise would not be able to attract that type of private investment. And it does it by providing some supports and some guarantees to get to the end of the financing package so these projects can be put together. It's my water.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the Grass Park and tell the commissioners what kind of visitors you have.
We have everything from, we have a lot of Europeans because of the horses and because we're a cookie cutter type, not like the Marriott, we're different. So the Europeans love little small boutique vintage hotels, which we qualify for that. We have a lot of bourbon people. They love bourbon, they love Kentucky. Actually, we have a lot of, the mayor sends a lot of people our way because once again, it's something different and unique. And this project here in Frankfort will actually represent Frankfort. I mean, you've taken something old, you've saved her, you're putting her back into the city, you're going to create jobs, it's going to be a great project, and I think people here will be happy of this, especially all the, the politicians, the city people, people coming into town. I think it's a great project, and plus we put people to work.
And also, I think you mentioned that the Lexington visitor and it has an
We have all
interest in
travel riders that stays with us that comes through Lexington or through Frankfort. They stay with us to ride the experience of the bluegrass. So, matter of fact, we just had 2 last weekend. They stay and they ride all about, the restaurants, what to see in Lexington or the surrounding area. And they do a great story. So, what we put them is very important.
Did you mention you had a meeting once? I remember you mentioning the convention visitors here.
Yeah. Also, Lexington in here also. And Lexington's real excited about having a boutique hotel in Frankfort.
the Convention and Visitors Bureau election now doesn't mean much when I say these things, but they feel so secure putting someone that's special in our world to come into election. They don't feel apprehensive at all about putting them in the Gratz Park. They can pick the Hyatt, they can pick the Hilton, they can pick the Marriott out there on Newtown Pike. They can put them anywhere they wanted to, with all different abilities. They can put them at the Gratz Park because of uniqueness and what it does. It gives them a sense of what elections are about. Magic Johnson, Sharon Stone, Goldie Hawn, Matt Lyer. One of our best is Terry Bradshaw. He stays there at least twice a year. We go on and on and on. I was in her office one day, and this lady walked in with this towel on her head where she had washed her hair, and it was Martha, what was her name? Rachel Ray.
Rachel Ray.
I said, "Who's that?" Zeta. And she come in and called Zeta by name. It was Rachel Ray with this towel on her head, And that's what you get. You get that one-on-one. That's what these boutique inns do, because you sell yourself as much as you sell the town, you sell the city, you sell the atmosphere, and that's what we'll do with this boutique inn. We'll make it somewhere where no one else wants to go anywhere else in Frankfort but this boutique inn, because where everybody knows your name, it works. You come in, we take care of you. They don't have people go out to bars, and I won't mention any names there, and they don't feel safe driving back, so they'll call her at home and she'll say, "I gotta go get such and such because they're out of the bar." So she gets up and she goes get them and takes them back to the hotel. That's what we do. That's what we'll do here. It becomes a real intimate situation, and that's what we'll make the Singing Bridge the same way.
We want to create a story. If anybody ever goes to Disney, Disney's big on stories, and that's what you want to create. We create it at the Gratz, every property we have, to the Canes, we create a story. And up here at the Singing Bridge, we'll create the story, and we'll story tell it through our employees to our guests and through our community. And as you know, word travels quicker than anything.
I have you tell us a little bit about, did you manage other, CRM manages other hotels, right?
We have a choice property, which is out in Hamburg, Sleep Inn. It was the first hotel built out there, is that correct?
Yeah, Hilton Gardens.
And so we still have that hotel. She's 13 years old. We have properties in Colorado, hotels, so.
I did put information in here about CRM management and just a little short bio about all of these guys on it. I didn't know you were coming.
I don't listen. I don't get a
And one
vibe.
thing I want to say, everybody, especially on downtown properties, signage is a big thing, but also if you have a building, you don't want these neon lights, signage, on the building. With the SIN program, you won't have to have, like Singing Bridge by Choice Hotels, huge. It's very small. Matter of fact, most people don't even know it's in a SIN property. So that's very important, I think, to keep in mind on a building like this.
I guess the last thing I'd like to say on our behalf is it has taken and is taking us a while to put the financing package together. And as Martha mentioned, we're not wealthy people ourselves. But even the Browns, who are wealthy people, are having trouble, the same kind of trouble, putting together a financing package for 21C in Lexington. And these things, as Greg would tell you if he were here, they take time, and it's not something that you can turn over overnight.
I guess, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, I'm going to tell them something you said the other, well, actually both you and Craig. We met with Craig, and with Wayne just last week in anticipation of this meeting. And one of the first things that was discussed was, again, their firm belief in and commitment to this project. They think it's a great project, and they're personally excited about it, think it'll be a good thing for the community, but they're really uncomfortable with time pressure because they know they had just come out of a closing on another piece of property, another business-related matter for them. It takes a long time to get to the closing. But, we also said, well, can we get there? Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many developers, and I'm not trying to act like I know all there is to know about that, but like for instance, we just built a retail center and a restaurant in Louisville, and I started looking at the property in May of 2011. I bought the property in September of 2013. It took me over 2.5 years just to get the property purchased, so I could get the financing in place. And it's something I did with Craig doing a little bit because Craig was involved in something else at the time. But it took 2.5 years just to get the land purchased, let alone the permits and everything you got to do. It just takes time. You can't do it overnight. It just takes time.
See, speaking of time, Gratz, when it was a morgue, I know it's different times. About how long did it take? A long time for that also?
Well, the Grass Park actually was developed in 1988. That's when they actually decided to take that building and turn it from what it was, and I don't honestly remember what it was exactly before they changed. Yeah, Lexington Clinic maybe, and it was sitting empty for a while. And it took them 4 years to actually get it turned around. The purchase of it was problematic, to say the least, because there was some danger, worse about it, because it's in bad shape. And then there was some, the infrastructure of downtown Lexington was not, and is not, great down there as far as your storm sewers and sanitary sewers. So it took some time to get all that put in place. And then once they finally started, there were some other things that took place. So it took a while to get it done. It was about a 4-year project. And it didn't take off real well. The people who actually renovated it didn't do well as far as, they actually managed it trying not to fail instead of trying to be success. And then they got in trouble, and they were bought out by some attorneys and other business people, and they took it the same way and tried to not lose money instead of make money, which is, you can't do that with a hotel. I'm trying to think of the saying that is when you get into financial trouble or you get into a downturn, the first thing you do is stop marketing or advertising. Well, that's like when you're trying to breathe, you hold your breath instead of trying to bring in oxygen. You have to keep on advertising and marketing your project or your store or your inventory in bad times as well as good times. And you can't manage with the idea that I don't want to lose much money or I'm going to minimize. You have to manage with the product or own it or manage it with the idea, here's what I got to do to make money. And the old adage about spending money to make money is what you got to do. And that doesn't come easily. And you got to have a lot of confidence in what you do, but we do have that confidence. Our mark, like for instance, and I'm not trying to bore you at the time, but when we bought the Grass Park Inn, we had 44 rooms. Now we got 41. Zeta come to me, of course she's my wife, she has a little bit of power on me. She said, honey, I'm going to take 2 rooms and turn it to a suite. I said, okay, we have 44 rooms in our inventory. You want to take 2 and make 1. Yeah, but I can make it work. Well, she proved to me. She took 2 and made 1. It's now called a mansion suite. We get $475 a night for it, and it stays about 75% full. She proved it to me. She came to me and said, honey, I need an office. I need to take one of my rooms and make it an office. I said, now we're going down to 43 rooms or 42 rooms? Yeah. I said, really? Yeah, I need to do that. Well, it's paid off. We made it work. Then she comes to me and says, I want to make one of the rooms up front in the lobby into a library. You saw that. I said, you're going to take another room? I'm going from 44 to 41 now. Is that what you want to do? She said, yeah, I'll make it work. The library, we'll have weddings in there, and we'll have parties, and we'll have, wine tasting, and there'll be a place for somebody to go. Well, of course, I do whatever she wants me to do because I like living with my wife. And she convinced me. It's beautiful. And we get the mayor for Lexington comes in there and sits all the time and drinks our coffee. Okay. And what? And few other things. I mean, but it's a gathering place, literally. And you can find all kinds of people in there. What I'm trying to say is you got to believe in a project. You got to know what you're doing. You got to take a chance. You got to go after it. And that's what the Grays are doing. They believe in what they're doing. And I believe with them. I mean, anybody can't see this to be a plus for downtown Lexington just not looking. I'm sorry, downtown Frankfort just not looking. It's a plus. How can you say it's a minus? I mean, if you're not saying it's a plus for downtown Frankfort, you're just not trying to see it. You just got your eyes closed. Simple as that. It's a plus. Why would you not give it time to unfold and take care of itself? Why would you not? I mean, I don't understand that mindset at all. This is going to be a plus for Frankfort, guys. If it doesn't make it, it doesn't make it. Give it time anyway. Try and see. What have you lost? I'm a developer, so I'm also a CPA, so I understand those kind of things. You got to give it time, guys. You got to let it happen. That's all I can say. Where you all decide to do is up to you all, but I know what, as a developer and as a hotel man, what it takes. It takes time.
Well, that's pretty much our presentation, and well, thank you again for letting us come and talk to you about the project. And are there any questions?
Okay, to the commissioners, you'll want to ask any questions of any of them.
Well, I believe there are questions. Now, per an email earlier, are we to ask you questions about anything now? Or
well, not
are we going to have the...
questions,
I mean, I understand. Who's going to win the game tonight, right? Or do you want them to excuse or stay?
Well,
I was just...
Oh, I think there was probably an email that came after that last one where
Okay.
we just decided to discuss the project, and leave the other stuff for later. Is that a
Okay.
fair?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have one
I don't
question
know.
Go ahead.
that comes, I guess, from the city aspect. If you guys are granted more time to go forth and go with this venture, is there any restrictions that the city has regarding redevelopment of this property on this location? Gary?
Oh, hey, Gary.
Since it's outside the flood wall, are there restrictions that we have in place regarding to allow it to be built, or
Well,
do we have to change any policies?
I would know once I saw a development plan. I haven't seen a
Okay.
development plan for the project. So a development plan is going to be required. A flood permit will be required. A division of water permit will be required. Approval from the Corps of Engineers will be required. We need a traffic analysis will be required.
A what?
Traffic analysis.
Oh.
State building permit. Once the development plan is approved, then they get a building permit. Building permit is going to fall under state jurisdiction. So the state would have to actually do the plan review and get a notice. It's called a notice of letter to proceed. And this applies to any property in the city where it's new construction or a substantial change of use that increases or a vacant structure. Doesn't have a use and new construction. In the flood zone, you kick in the division of water and the flood permits. It is in a floodway. It changed in June 2013. FEMA changed its maps, and more of the structure became in a floodway versus not. And it is on the wrong side. Flood wall. The first floor finished floor elevation has to be a foot above the flood zone.
What do you? I can't hear you very well.
The first floor elevation has to be a foot above the flood zone elevation. I believe that area is 809, going from 808, 809 roughly. So the first floor elevation has to be at least a foot above that. There's building codes. There's a lot of regulations. I can't tell you what would have to be modifications or waivers or actual changes to the code to make this happen until
You get a plan.
Until we get a plan.
I could only suggest. The parking is going to be, I think, an issue in the flood. The flood is the number one concern I have. Second's parking. And I think the flood and the parking has, at least the flood, I would think, have an impact on any type of tax credits. Eligibility is what I've heard from other developers. Just throwing that out there. But I'm not in that game. I just review development.
Can I ask?
It's not. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, really would like to thank Wayne and Zeta Aaron for coming down and all the way from Lexington. And if they could be excused to get back home to the game, that would be great. And be happy.
Pre-game, right?
Talk
Pre-game
about,
warm-up.
talk about Regulation Nation amongst ourselves.
No, they make us stay.
Well, thank you all for coming and being
Yeah,
with us.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Hope you have continued.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Have a good day. You start this story.
Go Cats.
That's right.
You want this door? Kevin, you want this door?
Just go ahead, right.
This door?
Okay.
You just go to this one.
We're Louisville fans. We can't figure out.
Take care.
Well, they just shot that.
Were you through, I mean, sorry, Commissioner Hill.
Well, I mean, if we could just have a discussion, I'm fine with it, with doing it that way, Mayor, if you
I
want.
think we can be real
Just-
relaxed, if that's okay. Commissioner Bowers, you were asking.
I
Mueller.
I think I understood, a lot of people have asked me or made comments about that there's not any parking. And my understanding is is it 18 or 22 spaces somewhere? And I guess the question is how to get to them?
There's a ramp that goes down between the old Y and the flood wall to the riverbank.
Coming in from the Second Street School?
No,
The
right
twin.
next, right, if you look at the front door
White light.
to your left.
that's between the flood wall and the edge of the building is apparently there's a fence there.
To your right.
Just to the left of the building, by the
If
white,
you're facing
between
the
white.
building,
You're facing
it's
the-
to your left. If you're looking at the front door, it's to the left.
Well, I was just wondering if, I just had this idea of, I don't know how to word it, but I have this, not a vision, but this idea of, does anybody, this direction of us, is anybody thinking about like moving? Like, could that become an extended lot with a little archway walk over or something? I mean, that's something that nobody's brought to us, but I'm trying to think long term about what's going to happen with these properties around here going that way that could become part of a bigger plan. But I mean, I can't make that happen. Property owners, I don't even know if they're interested in relocating or anything, but
Commissioner Bowers, if I may, boutique hotels that I've stayed at who've been limited in downtown spacing have also only allowed valet parking, of which they had people, and that's just part of the culture in some places, is that you only have valet. You're not parking your own car, your own vehicle, that you're dropping it off and they're taking it and you're calling them on your way down and your car's there when you're at the door. You're not worried about parking.
and is that going to be possible?
Yeah,
With
we've
Okay.
at least mentioned that in our summary, but yeah, we've been long talked about that.
At the bottom of the ramp, the riverbank levels out, and there's room down there for 22 parking spaces. The riverbank's owned by the city school system. They didn't know they owned it, but they do. And we've talked to them about purchasing the riverbank because the city's interested in this project because they've calculated that it will generate over $40,000 a year in increased revenue to them.
Over 40 just for property taxes.
And as Commissioner Hedden said, that she didn't mention, she mentioned valet parking. That's what we would have there.
Okay. And then I know that you're thinking about having a restaurant, a dining room in there. So, the 22 spaces, I don't know how many rooms you're talking about having, but I'm thinking there would be people that wouldn't be staying there that would use the dining room as well.
I hope so.
And
The
so I
dining room
guess-
itself would become a destination.
And so I guess what I'm thinking about in terms of parking this way, I mean, that's something that might be down the road, but in the back of my mind, I like to envision how things might look in 10 years. Parking for those people. And there's some little shops across the street now. So it could be, with the shops across the street and the historical buildings across the bridge, it could actually be, well, you've already called it a destination, but it would bring business to this little strip right down here, this side of the bridge. And we have walking tours downtown, different times of the year. So,
Well, actually, it would provide an anchor for St. Clair. St. Clair being anchored by the old Capitol on one end and the Singing Bridge on the other. It would become a destination. Well,
I know that there was some question from one of the property owners down here, what was going to happen to his entrance and exit when we do what we're going to do up here. So that's, I think that, have we even addressed that question? So, I mean, I think we need to think about that. We need to think of the whole big picture for this corner here and think about all of the parts and maybe do some communicating with that individual, those individuals. I don't know, I can see, well, I can't quite vision it, but I'm thinking in terms of having more area to park over here so that that can become something where people are coming to, not just to spend the night.
well, actually, it's within our 5-year plan to tear down City Hall.
He wasn't joking. I'm just kidding.
We really did
No.
try, we tried.
At one time, we were talking about
We talked
moving
about
across
it.
the river.
We talked about it.
And if the library doesn't like their building, maybe we could move into the building.
Don't get our staff started on this building.
Right.
They'll buy it, they buy it too. Plan already.
They're ready to go. Bags packed.
Well, we really do appreciate your,
I think Commissioner Roach.
Well, I think there's some more questions
Yeah.
too, if you guys don't
Commissioner Roach
mind.
said he was good. Commissioner Haynes, did you have anything? You don't have to.
No, I actually had asked, most of the men asked who was going along and taking notes and answered the questions I was going to ask. And Jerry actually filled in some because I don't know, it's almost too early to ask zoning kind of questions, that kind of stuff. If you mentioned these, you gotta be trained.
It'll all come in time.
You had some.
Yes, they are. Have you guys looked at getting it insured? I mean, just one question that was brought up to me by a citizen was, will it be able to be insured? And it's outside the floodplain. Its elevation seems high enough for the ground level to be.
yeah, we've
Out of it,
discussed
but-
that with an insurance agency here in town, and it's insured.
Mm-hmm.
Insurable. Well, it's insured now, but it's.
And it'll be, I guess, insurance. It just changes so much. I mean, I guess they pay it $1 million or something. The rest is all cash after that. If you have damages, up to $1 million, right?
Well, that's been factored into our profit loss calculations.
Okay. Okay, but somebody would insure it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to insure it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Mm-mm.
I just think that we've got a couple choices. We can get rid of it, and the only thing that can go back there is a place to stand. Or we can develop it. We can allow someone to develop it, to rehab it. And I think that it would be a wonderful asset to this side of the bridge, to the 2nd Street side. So a place to stand, rehab structure, it's a fine hotel that's going to bring people in that, I mean, I like the idea, but, I've always liked the idea. I would like to see it done, and it's not going to be up and running in 18 months or 24 months, but good things take time, and I would like to see it done. That's, I don't know how much time we want to give it, but I know the Grays have been redeveloping structures already, and you can't do everything at once. I mean, if we all were given grant money to, endless amounts, we could do it, but I want to see it developed. I don't want a place to stand there because I think that the hotel would bring life that a place to stand will not. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm actually glad that the Grace had the opportunity to bring the supporting cast here because this is what I've been waiting for. Because, I've always said before any decisions are made, you need to get as much information as you can. So, and I looked at some of the brochures, and that's why I took it upon myself to visit the Gratz just to see, okay, what does this entail? What do these rooms look like? And because I'm like some of the other commissioners, sometimes when I'm trying to visualize something, I don't have those kind of tools. But I've seen some renovation work that you've done, and then, of course, that one looks way more massive than the apartments. So I was glad to hear from, was it Wellington? No.
Wayne.
Yeah, Wellman. Somebody who's done this kind of stuff because I'm not as time conscious, but sometimes I do want to look at phases. It's not a matter of, for me, something done here, but it's saying, okay, when will a phase 1 start? And then, phase 2, because as I travel the roads, whether you go to a Bowling Green or you go to a Louisville, when you see them making those 3-lane and 4-lane roads, it seems like it takes forever. but over years you see how the improvement is, and then you're thankful. And I'm hoping to be thankful and supportive. But the idea, the concept is great. I think it's, to me, there's no doubt that it's great. So I appreciate you all bringing them here and staff and other commissioners to agree to this date, because it's kind of hard for us to maneuver our calendars around to. But I think it's that important. And also, right now, I don't think the community has really even. I've talked to a few people, and you have both sides, because you have some people say, well, I don't pay it any attention. Others say, no, it should be torn down. What is a boutique hotel? So I'm not getting the warm and fuzzy. That's why I was looking for this.
Can I say one thing? I mean, I think that the problem from the perspective of the public, and I understand this, is because they see the building sitting there, nothing's happening actually at the building site. They assume that nothing's happening. But, as far as progress, I mean, we're using the courthouse as an example. And the state had already allocated a ton of money. How long did it just sit there with nothing happening, even after everybody moved out of there and moved all the way across town? Just because you don't see workmen down there with a crane or a shovel or, backhoe or whatever, doesn't mean that there aren't things going on in the background that you can't see. And again, this is, I guess, intangible stuff. And I know we're not making progress fast enough to satisfy some people, but we've made a lot of progress. And I don't think, that we're given much credit for that. I mean, even, to the point of finding a team that is interested in this project, that's committed to seeing us, to seeing it through to a successful end, and then running the thing. I mean, we may be crazy enough to do this without making a huge amount of money off of any of our buildings. They're not. I mean, they do this for a living and have for 30, 40 years. So they wouldn't waste their time coming down here. They've been down here now more than once. I think some of you have met them more than once. And those aren't their only trips down here. They wouldn't bother. They wouldn't bother to go through the trouble of putting a spreadsheet together for us that was thick. They wouldn't bother to waste their time coming down here, sitting in this room and talking to you and talking about this project and why they believe in it if they didn't believe in it. Because they've got plenty. I mean, one reason we had a hard time scheduling this meeting, and we do appreciate you scheduling a special time, but one reason we have some difficulty is because they're extremely busy and they have lots of other projects going on. If you look at the map of their region of service, it's about 15 states wide. It's not just the 3 of them. So for them to show that kind of commitment and interest in this, I think speaks volumes. And it took us a long time just to get there. And I guess I've said this before, but if you discourage that kind of effort on our part, on their part, how is Frankfort ever going to? How are we ever going to make progress down here? I guess. So I hope that you'll consider that, because it's slow, but it's moving steadily in the right direction. We're not slipping backwards.
Commissioner Roach had some questions or comments.
A little of both, but I'll be quick since we're all trying to get out. Let me just say that I am for development. I don't think there's anybody in government official in Frankfort or Franklin County that's more pro-business than I am, but there may be. And I'm all for this boutique hotel. I got no problem with that. I think it'd be great. My concern has been the same from the get-go, which is we've been told certain things over time and they weren't followed, period. We've been told that the city sabotaged the grant process, which, that's not really something that makes me feel warm about this project. But the long and the short of it is, rather than me asking my 10 or 12 questions that I have, I believe that the best thing for us to do as a commission is to get the city manager and Gary and Rob to meet with you guys and come up with some sort of an agreement that all parties can live with, and so that we have something in black and white that we can finally go by, rather than somebody saying that I'll get you your plans in 2008, or we say something that we don't follow, or we're told something in 2013 that we're going to get you something in the fall, or we plan on getting financing next year. Something that has some flexibility for you all too. I understand that, but that there is something that we finally have something. Otherwise, why is anybody else in this town going to be willing to follow certain things? And what's the point? So I think we need some sort of a binding agreement from both parties that people can live with, and then if you all can't live with what we come up with, or we can't live with it, then we can take it from there. But otherwise, I hope you all, I'm wrong, but otherwise I believe in 2020 we'll still be having this same discussion, and it will still be the same thing, and we'll still have these other issues going on. So I would ask that we let those people negotiate with you all, come up with some sort of a binding agreement that people can live with, and then finally we can put this thing, have some sort of a resolution.
Mayor, could I?
Yeah, because we're being really informal.
I still think we need to, depending on where everybody on the commission is, I brought this up before, and it might sound a bit of overkill, but I don't see anything wrong with a resolution if there are 3 members saying that we are backing the redevelopment of this building and that we're really behind it from the commission standpoint, if that gives them a bit of backing when they go for financing. We've done resolutions on all kinds of things in this historical building, and does anybody agree with me on that? Or
Do you think something like that would help you guys?
A resolution? I think any, letters of support that we have have been helpful.
a public statement that the commission as a body is backing the redevelopment of this? If there are 3 votes, and I would be one of those 3 votes.
Because if you're a lender or an investor, you don't want to, you're talking about $2 million here. You don't want to commit to a project when you think that, that the community's against it.
And I think that it would also send a message to the public, or some of the public, who believe that absolutely nothing is being done, and it's just a controversy between City Hall and the Grays. And I want that perception to go away. It's not between City Hall and the Grays. I think that it would dispel some of that.
So is there no support besides myself for some sort of an agreement?
Oh, I think that I would like to see, so now I don't want like dates, April 15th, 2015, this is what's going to be in place, but some sort of, I think somebody brought up the word phase, some sort of outline with a general idea about what's going to be done by when, maybe not down to the very date, but
And that we're in communication.
a phased outline. Who used that word a while ago? Was that
Yeah, I did. But it is also important because we want to make sure you tie all of them in. I think the communication part is good because eventually it's going to get to the part where you develop a plan, and that is better to discuss that stuff early on at some point than waiting till there's a problem. But I'm very supportive of the idea, and that's my words, because of the boutique, because I think it would be good for Frankfort because we don't have a lot being renovated right now.
So, Commissioners, how many years are you willing to wait?
I don't know. That's why we're
No, I mean,
open to communication.
just throw a number at me.
Well, I think they said Gratz Park took 4 years, and is that from the time they actually began the physical work on it, or was that from the point of...
Yeah. Well, he said it took him 2 years or 3 years just to purchase a piece of property in Louisville that they're developing now about a summer.
Well, we've been looking at it for several decades, and if it's redeveloped, we're going to look at it for many, many more decades, and I'm not thinking it needs to be completed in 2 years or 4 years.
Well, pardon me if I may, but you were also on a commission that voted to tear that building down, of which never got torn down.
Yes.
People do change.
I know
people
that.
change from meeting to meeting.
I understand that, but this is a great idea.
At that time, when that vote was taken, there was not this plan.
I
You were
understand
supposed to
that.
get a
And in
plan
fact,
2008.
I understand that. I understand
and
that.
in fact, I believe that actually I'm the one that suggested a hotel before the boutique idea ever came to the table. That I'm talking several years back when I was on the commission before, but the plan wasn't there. So I would hope that we're all flexible to actually have vision and change our minds when we have ideas. The hotel idea came out of my mind before I ever saw it from the Grays. And I'm really grateful that they had the same vision for it. So,
Great
you know,
that you plant
it's,
seeds.
So, I get it. And so if there's nobody that's for this but me, then we can move on to the next thing. So is no one for having a negotiation where we have some sort of a binding agreement?
I would like to see before that.
Well, yes,
Can you
sir.
kind of
Fine.
give us a general, what I would like to see is a plan. Here's what we've done so far. Here's the next step.
What's the next
Here's how
commission
long
gonna
we
do?
expect this to take. So we have something
It's moot.
to let us know, you know, tangibly that it's moving forward. So we have something to actually lend support for our being behind this.
So,
And I think that it needs to take place at this table. Is where I think it needs to take place. I'm not really comfortable with sending 3 people out to meet with the Grays. I want to be a part of those conversations.
okay.
I mean, we've had those kind of meetings up to this point, and I don't see any problem with having that take place with the full board. And maybe if you don't want to do it tonight, that the Grays could go and come back with a plan to present to us. I don't see any point in doing it away from the commission.
This is not. This, we have a fiduciary duty to the public, and all of us have different opinions as to how that fiduciary duty is upheld. But we have spent an inordinate amount of time on this topic, much of which is my fault. But we've got bigger items that come down the pike and smaller items. So the question is, how are you going to allocate your time? I think it makes the most sense if we believe that we want staff to come up with some sort of a binding agreement, or to let staff do that and then come back to us, and then we can look at it and give our input in it, rather than having a round table. I mean, how many of us know anything about development? My guess is not many. So,
Well, I think the question you asked a while ago is, or Katie asked, or Commissioner Hedden asked, how long do you want to wait?
it was me.
That was you that asked that question. So that's one place where we could all start. How long does this commission want to wait?
It's a moot point.
And then it's a moot point?
We have how many months until election? It's a moot point.
Well, then everything we
Like
do
I
is
said,
moot.
your previous commission
Then
voted
everything-
to tear it down. Things change. New commissions come in. It's a moot point.
Then everything is a moot point.
And I'm going to ask Gary a question when you get through.
Okay.
We can do a resolution to support them if they need that to help them move
I think
forward.
that would be in order. I think it would be good. I think it would be helpful. So, Mayor, is this a meeting where I can make a motion to do that?
Do we,
Special
Well,
meeting?
before we do it, I'm going to ask Gary a question. But I think we can. Can we not? Yeah, we can take it. We can do this.
It's a special meeting. I move
Yeah.
that.
We said that.
It's an action meeting. Well, I moved it, I don't know who I want to draw up the resolution. I guess that's Mr. Moore. Is that your job? I move that we have a resolution drawn up by staff that communicates that this commission is supporting the redevelopment of the building.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Bowers, seconded by Commissioner.
May I add one thing?
Of course.
With staff help if needed, with communication with our staff if needed regarding any zoning or building that they need.
Is part of the resolution?
That we have communication with our staff. I'm just trying to tie the two together. You don't have to go with it.
I think that might be better in a different
Okay.
action.
Well, why don't I ask this question now from, since we're in discussion, Janelle Bow said, I'm going to jump in. Question on planning issues. As Commissioner Roach said, we have the duty to the rest of the community. I support this project. But my question that some folks are going to ask us is, what we do with other developers that are in a situation that may say that they need more time too. Are there provisions that we allow for others, extensions? I know it's like 30, 60 days kind of extensions here and there.
I'll stay with development plans. When a development plan that gets approved, it's valid for 1 year. If you don't get a building permit within that 1 year, the developer can come and ask for an extension of 1 year, and we have the ability to grant 1 year. Beyond that, if they want 2 or 3 years on that, after they have an approved development plan, the planning commission can grant larger time. I often suggest, and I did this with Parkside, even on the Dick's Sporting Goods, one that was just approved last year, in the development plan, they have a large tract in the back that they don't know what to do with. I said, well, you're under certain rules, and June 1, 2014, your rules changed, so if you throw it as a phase and give a 2 to 3 year time frame, the planning commission approves that, it gets to follow the old rules for 2 to 3 years, and the board approved a 3-year time frame. The planning commission did. So it gets to follow certain rules because they threw that phase in, and it was a 3-year time frame. All the other lots have to meet current code, or go through the process of modification. But development plans itself are good for 1 year. Subdivision, preliminary plats are good for 1 year on subdivisions. Code enforcement items, administratively we have 30 days. We can grant an extension of 30 days. In most cases we get 30 days now. When we do our sweep in December, we don't write the violation for painting until March, usually April, because we know they can't paint in January and February, so we don't even send them the notice, so it's a delayed issuance. But again, they only get to 30 to 60 days.
Is that the same for historic?
Unless it goes to the board, and then the code enforcement board can grant.
That's the
as
same
much
for the
time as
special
they want.
historic and the special capital, every district.
Yes, citywide.
And just so you'll know, this is, since we're debating an issue, only commission members can talk this, so then we'll dispose of this and then we can go back into it. Do you want to vote, or do you have a question?
Oh, I think we do.
Are y'all ready to vote on that? And then with respect to Commissioner Hidden, if you can also make another motion and say, we'd like the staff, or even just do a directive, I think, unless you wanted it to be an amendment to.
It doesn't seem like it.
No, I think it would be good, but I think it's two different things. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, there's two.
If the resolution, I think would be good for the public to know that this commission.
And then just have
we
something
support
separate.
it. Then we're talking about a process. We want the staff.
We want
to do the
staff.
work.
We want staff to communicate, and you guys to feel to communicate with them as well, with so that you're ahead of the game when it comes to development. If there's glitches that come up.
Just
Well, I
remember,
would say, and I'm
hold on a
sure.
second. I'm sorry,
Oh,
folks.
I'm sorry.
Just because we're in a procedural thing, you need to. Don't ask them. We can ask some questions in a minute. But we got to dispose of this motion first. You can rephrase that if you want to. Just can't.
Just for the discussion purpose, then, just so I'm be clear in my mind, if we withdrew our order and added that piece, that would be okay. Or we can settle this part and then
Settle that part.
You can figure it out.
Okay, so we
Do whatever you all want to do.
I'm clear.
We can vote on the resolution first, and then if you want to go back and add a second stipulation or a new stipulation, you can do that. Or if you want to amend the resolution, you may do that now. If you pass the resolution, you can also bring it back up, move the previous question and bring it back up and do all kinds of little. But I hope y'all don't make it that complicated for me.
I guess it
This is
comes.
just on the.
Can we hear how the resolution is going to read? I think my motion was to. Have you
I
read
think it
it?
was just a
He couldn't have
resolution
written
of
the
support.
resolution. Yeah,
Well, I want to make sure.
Just direct them.
I want to make sure that I want to make sure it got recorded what we're doing. I want the resolution to convey that this city commission is supportive of this project. And then, Commissioner Roach, once we've made that statement, I don't have a problem. Well, I would rather it's all be the table, but if you want staff to go do something with the grades and come back, what I would really like to see is somewhat of a progress report thing on a schedule.
And I want a binding agreement, so those may be they may be mutually exclusive, I don't know. You maybe
Okay.
can come up with a way that they can be worked out.
Okay.
Well, in terms of a resolution, I would think that you would just want a resolution that indicates that the City Commission supports the Grays or Old Y LLC in their attempts to, in their work to renovate and rehabilitate the old YMCA building into a boutique motel. And then I would keep that short and simple because they may use that in applications for different grants and things like that, and you don't want to clutter up that resolution with a bunch of other stuff. So I would say you would want to keep that short and simple. And then if you want to address other issues, one, I don't know, in my experience, the staff has always been very cooperative in working with people, but if you want to make some type of order, that's fine. And in terms of a time frame, I think it's difficult to do anything with respect to a time frame without talking to the Grays about time frames generally, and then see if you can arrive at some type of general agreement on a time frame. And I don't know that tonight is really the night to do that.
I agree with all that.
Second that, right?
And then actually later on, because we're going to get into the budget year, and my focus is going to be there. They can be on an agenda, down the road. I have more information now than I had, and hopefully they will continue working theirs. I'm sure they will contact, who they need to contact when they get to this part. And I think, if 6 months down the road, if we want to put them on the agenda, then that's when we may want to bring up, okay, are we here yet? Development plan, because by that time they would have heard from Frankfort Independence about the possible purchase of the lots there. They would have. There's just certain things that could have happened by then. 6 months down the road. Well, right now, we just have the information. I think the resolution is good. I think it'll speak well in the community. Only question I can't answer, if the question has been answered about these other builders. I'm not aware of anyone doing a restoration other than houses of a historic type facility that's been around a long time. I'm just not aware of it. Could be. I'm aware of a lot of renovation actions of some buildings. They're not historic, but some buildings to fit what they need to do. So I'm ready to hopefully move on whoever that resolution thing is, and I like your idea of not cluttering it up.
Not cluttered up, but maybe just put one little phrase in there about this will help to revitalize this corridor of Frankfort and bring business in, because it will. But we're supporting the results of it. But you do it how you want. We can always do amendments in the meeting. Do it how you want, make it short and simple. So I'll call for the question.
Okay, and all we're doing tonight, just so you understand, we're just voting to have the city attorney draft a resolution of support, which will be presented back to us. We can deal with that at the, you want to deal with that at the work session, or wait till the April?
Bring it to the work. Well, you can bring it to the work session, right? So we can look at it.
I'm going to bring it to the work session.
He's bringing it to the work session. I'll call for the question.
And, clerk, please call roll on the support of resolution.
Commissioner Roach?
No.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. Resolution. The motion passes, and the resolution will be brought back to us at the work session. Commissioner Hadden, did you want to? And we don't even have to vote if there's no objection to what Commissioner Hadden said. We don't have to vote on it. Just if you can make it in form of motion, if you'd like to. So we'll just say direct staff to work with the Grays.
Well, I'm hopeful that our staff will work with them, and as things get presented back to us and updated, that our staff is able to help forward the road ahead to help with any glitches or anything that might come up, because they do come up.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks very much. Thanks for meeting with us tonight.
Any other discussions?
So we're not. Go ahead.
There is one glitch I would like to bring up now, if I could.
Yeah.
In 2010, this property was cited as abandoned property, and it went before the Board of Zoning Adjustments. For the ordinance, it goes to the Board of Zoning Adjustments for appeal. And the board in 2011 deemed it as not abandoned because they had a market plan, a market study. And that continued. So because it was approved in 2011, mid-2011. It wasn't on the list for 2012. 2012, the City Commission granted the grades to try to do a grant, CLG grant. So it wasn't on the list. For the year 2013, I wasn't aware of anything that had happened, nor the city authorizing them to do things, nor them doing things. So they're on the list. And I discussed it with the city manager, and he said, yeah, it needs to stay on the list. I'm trying to treat everyone fairly and equally. But I also don't want to send the grades to a board and have them spend $150 that they don't need to. So you may want to consider either leaving it as is, or I don't know, some direction for staff, exempting it in a resolution or exempting it by the ordinance. I don't know. But right now,
We can't talk about it.
it's coming on the list.
There's an appeal process that's set up in the ordinance. It's a very simple appeal process.
So you just could follow that.
Correct.
Okay.
Which would require them to pay $150 to go for the current ordinance, unless there's a change. Why I brought it up.
Let me ask for a third and final time, because I think I know. So I just want to make sure. So there's no interest in any kind of an agreement or anything that might have any kind of broad or narrow dates or financing or the multitude of questions that we have to try to see if we can't get that codified so we can have something to follow.
Well, I would like to say too, and I spoke with the grades about this on the phone, just if by the end of the year, as long as you're working and making progress, but if at the end of the year you haven't made any progress, and only because you've been preoccupied with something else, or you just not
Can
doing
I say
anything.
something?
Sure.
We have made progress, and we are making progress. And when you talk about, we preoccupied about something else. Up until we are finishing up the building down the street, which I've provided some pictures of in this packet. That has been a distraction because, again, we do have a lot going on. But that's about complete. And we don't, children now are both forward. I'm not, at one point during this, I was working full-time. I'm not doing that. I'm, dedicated to this full-time, and that speeds things up. But I still can only send information to talk till I'm blue in the face with lenders and another one, and I guess even on the timetable thing, like something like you mentioned, some things that are not maybe available down the road that aren't available now. We do fall in a census tract that qualifies for new market tax credit, but they work differently than the historic tax credit, so it's a competitive process. And the federal government keeps pushing back the date. What they do is every year they basically refund it, and they tell these they're called community development entities. They allocate credits to be used for certain projects, and then even after the credits are allocated, then the application process is competitive. So we have a community development entity actually too that are interested in our project, but they're still waiting for the federal government to announce the allocation. That was first supposed to happen in April, then it was supposed to happen in May, now they're saying it's June. So that date keeps getting pushed back. So they can't even say to me, because they don't know, we're going to have this much in the way of allocation, and we might consider your project for this portion of it, because they don't even know whether they're going to get one. They all assume that they are, and they all assume it's going to come in June, and they'll be able to tell me something then. But I can't do anything, and neither can they, to speed up that. I mean, I can't. So, the effort that I've made is to educate myself about new markets, find out, where those, who has the allocation and how those are available. I went to a seminar, I was telling Ramona, I met somebody that knew her, a seminar in Nashville that was several days long to learn the ins and outs of new markets. And part of what, they made clear there was this new market game is a relationship networking kind of game. It's a really great thing that you're here because you'll meet people who can help you actually get this money. But that's all a learning process. It's all a slow process, and part of that is governed by forces that are entirely out of my control. So
I just want to make sure,
and I guess
as
also
long as you're trying and
yeah.
doing something, then we're supporting I think that's,
As far as the staff goes, you know, I know Gary, and I think I still have the email somewhere, you know, a while ago sent us a detailed email with a list in it with all the things that he mentioned. You need to be considering these things. So we have that. We still have it.
thank you all for trying to do this project. We hope it's successful, and I think hopefully with our resolution of support and with the staff that everyone can help you get that as quickly as possible, and then hopefully we see some good benefits.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner
Second.
Brooks, seconded by Commissioner Hedden. Now, is there any discussion?
I was going to make another point
Okay, you
before,
can discuss that. Okay.
but
This is to speak whether or not we adjourn. Sorry.
okay. Now
I know the city attorney's like.
I just had one more comment,
I was-
so I'll just ask that I be allowed to make that comment before we vote on
Martha.
adjournment. If not, I can make it in the work session.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry,
So
because the
I'll just
adjournment thing
make
is
my
kinda-
comment in the work session.
All righty. All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
Thank you very
Sorry,
much.
Lynn.
Thank you.